Welcome back to another episode of Golf with Jen. Today we've got a male versus female pro match play again. We've got a 6-hole match out here at RSGC's Old Course. So this is the second time we're doing a match play out at RSGC, and one of the reasons why I like doing match plays out here is because it is pretty fair. The course is long enough that men are able to tee off from the distances that they would normally play on tour. For this hole, it is playing 438 yards from the blacks and 397s from the whites. So if you've never watched the video on my channel before, I always mention that in Malaysia, golf courses do play a little bit longer just because we do not get any run out. It is also a little bit windy out here today, which is a little bit abnormal for Malaysia. But like I said, one of the benefits of playing out here is that it's pretty fair. Because we're playing from the blacks and the whites, it's going to be about a 500 yards distance difference. So like I mentioned just now, there's going to be a 500-yard distance difference. Obviously, that's over 9 holes, which again, it's pretty fair because over 9 holes, that's going to be about a 50 yards difference on each tee box, which I would say is about the average distance difference between a female and a male pro. Nice. After some pretty difficult putts for par on the first hole, we remain all square and move to the second hole, which is another par 4. From the black tees, it's playing 449 yards, and from the whites, they're playing 396 yards. So again, it's about a 50 yards distance difference again on the second hole. And for the tee shot, we're both pretty much trying to reach about the same area with the same target in mind. Nice. So for our approach shots, we're again in about the same area. This time I drove him a little bit, and as you can see, we pretty much end up in the same areas when we tee off from this tee box, which has about a 50 yards distance difference. So I think a question that I sometimes get asked is how come the guys are playing so many more under par on average than the women are on tour? And I think this is something that people don't realize. Although we might be playing from different tee boxes, the distance definitely makes a big difference. For example, on this hole, Chu is hitting a 9-iron into this green, whereas I'm hitting a 7-iron. So obviously when we drive to the same positions of the tee, I'm still going to have a much longer club to approach the green than he is. And this is most likely going to be about a 2 club to 3 club difference. And as you guys know, 2 clubs makes a huge difference. There is a huge difference between hitting a 6 iron and an 8 iron into the green. So even though people might argue that distance is not everything and it comes down to short game, yes, at the end of the day, obviously you need to make the putts to make the score. However, distance is definitely always going to be an advantage. The shorter the clubs that you have into the green, the higher the chance of you being able to hit it closer and therefore make more putts. That's not something to be argued, that's just proven by statistics and proven by logic. So no matter what people say, yes, distance does play a big advantage in the game of golf. Now, following what I just said, I don't want anybody to argue that the men's game or the women's game is better. I just think that they're both very different, and the reason why is because of what I've just mentioned. Girls and guys need to play a different sort of golf. Oops. So as a woman professional golfer, I always hear people compliment the women on being able to hit hybrids really well and being able to putt really well. Whereas with the men, you always hear compliments about how far they hit and how they're able to scramble. Obviously, the further that you hit, the more comes into play. You have a higher area for dispersion and therefore you're more likely going to be in trees and such. And of course, that's not saying that if you hit it short, you're not going to be in trees. When you hit it long enough, you're also more likely going to be able to hit different kinds of shots. Whereas when you hit it short and you hit it in the trees, you're most likely just going to punch it out. Therefore, I think you see more creativity in the men's game because of that, because they're able to still go for greens. They have obviously different shot trajectories that they're able to go above trees. Not every woman hits it very high as the men do. And I just think that overall, the game of golf for women and men are still pretty different. And of course, here I'm talking about the average distance golfer. So based on that too, it is pretty amazing how in the Scandinavian Mix this year, it made major news that Lindgren beat a bunch of men from the DP World Tour to win that tournament. Obviously, Lindgren, if you didn't know, hits it above average. She hits it, I think, about 270 to 280 yards. So she does have that distance advantage, and the keyboard warriors were complaining after that she hit a wedge into every green. Like I said in the previous hole, distance is always going to be an advantage, and that's an advantage that she has for being able to hit long. However, like I just said as well, being able to hit long means you're going to have a bigger area of dispersion. So for her to be able to control her game and her shots to be able to hit it straight enough to get herself to a position to hit wedges into every green, I think it really showed people that the women can compete against the men. And even though there are different areas of strength, I would love to see more collaborations between the men and women tour, and I think a lot of you guys would too. What are your opinions on that, and what do you guys think the future of golf is going to look like?
No! Nice shot. Fits the club. Ah, stop. Okay.
When it comes to fairness in match play, I always think that par 3s are probably one of the fairest holes that you can play because it requires a good iron shot from both parties. You're usually going to play around the same club. Like over here, I played an 8 iron and he played a 9 iron. We both ended up in different positions, but as you can see, we hit pretty similar clubs, so I feel like in that aspect it is pretty fair in terms of match play because you both need to hit solid shots, and when it comes to par 3s we all know that we have less shots, so if you hit a bad shot you're under a lot more pressure to make sure that you hit a good shot coming back, especially if your opponent has hit it close. But I think that's one of the best parts about match play. It keeps it interesting, especially when it gets more intense and when things are coming down to the wire. There's nothing better than performing when you need to perform, and I think that that's what you see when you're playing match play, especially on par 3s. Next up, we have a par 4. It's not a very long one, so he's going with the safer play here, hitting a hybrid off the tee. And I think that's one of the choices you have to make, not only in match play but also in your game in general. Is it worth it to take the more aggressive shot, or is it better just to give yourself a shot from the fairway? So I don't know if you could tell from the tee shot, but I don't think he hit like the best shot over there. But like we were talking about just now, determining whether you should play it more aggressive or more safe, even with the miss with the hybrid, he still left himself in the center of the fairway and is only hitting a pitching wedge. So especially when you're playing match play, it's definitely a bonus to be hitting a lot of fairways, a lot of greens, just make your game seem easier. Having that one up is definitely a mental advantage in match play. So I hit a little bit too good of a shot from the fairway and my ball ended up bouncing over the green, but I didn't leave myself in the worst positions. So over here, like I was saying in the beginning of the video, would you choose the more aggressive play to try to go for it, especially if your opponent's on the green, or would you just play it as you normally would and just try to get up and down? I think for me, I always try to make any chip that I'm standing over. However, there's a difference between trying to make it and trying too hard to make it. You never want to force a chip because you don't want to leave yourself coming back with a 6-footer. Especially from here, I have an uphill chip. Leaving myself a 6-footer downhill when I could just be leaving myself with a tap in just does not really make much sense. So similar to what I said in the beginning as well, even though this putt over here is to win the hole, he does not want to be too aggressive with it either because it is not a gimme. He still has easily about 30 feet, so if he was too aggressive and tried to go too hard at it, he could end up even missing his par putt or giving himself a very difficult par putt, which just makes your game a lot more difficult and completely unnecessary even though it's match play. So I think even when you're playing match play, you need to be able to find that middle ground where you're still playing golf competing against yourself even though you're competing against somebody else. If you are somebody who struggles when playing match play, one of the things that I would look at is what you are thinking about when you're playing match play and how differently that is from your regular game. Personally, even though I'm not someone who have competed in a lot of match play tournaments, I have done a lot of social match play matches, and I always feel that one of the most common mistakes is that you tend to want to play against your competitor because it's match play. You're trying to one-up them, you're trying to play against them. So for instance, if they have a birdie putt, and you have a birdie putt, you putt based on what they do. So if they miss that birdie putt, you tend to want to be more aggressive to make your birdie putt, and that could lead to errors like what we talked about just now, where you end up 3-putting for no reason and losing a hole when you were in the lead. So I think that there is a middle ground that you need to find in match play, but it's very important that you are able to translate this into your regular game as well, because even in normal tournament play, you might be coming down the stretch and it might feel like match play because you might be going head to head against someone else, and in that situation you will know exactly what score you need to shoot, whether you're going to win it, whether you're going to go into a playoff. And in situations like that, you need to be able to focus on your own game. Even though you're focused on what score you need to shoot, you need to be able to hit those shots that's going to shoot those scores, rather than try to shoot that score and not focus on hitting those shots. So I hope this makes sense, and I hope you guys learned something from this video. Comment down below if you did, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up so that I can continue making more Golf with Jen videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time.